Good morning, my dear students. Welcome to my class. So, in class 4B Science, we are going to start lesson 4 Adaptation in Animal. So, we are going to start lesson 4 Adaptation in Animals. We are going to start our half yearly syllabus. Okay, this is the first lesson of our half yearly syllabus. Alright, so you please see here in this chapter what are the things we are going to study. We are going to study need for adaptation in animals. Why there is a need? Adaptation to different habitats. How they can adapt to different habitats. Adaptations for food, care and concern for animals. Now my dear students, here so many new terms will come in this chapter. Okay, like what is an habitat? You will learn here in this chapter what is an habitat. Okay, how the animals can adapt to different habitats. You will learn all these things in this lesson. Okay, so let us start. We find various animals and plants living on the earth. See, our earth is a very big planet. Okay, here you will find many various kinds of animals and plants. So, my dear students, our earth is a very big place, isn't it? So, here you are going to find various different kinds of animals, different kinds of plants. Okay, so the place where a particular type of animal or plant normally lives, so that is known as its habitat. Now, you see here, let us take some example. Okay, suppose we are taking an example of a camel. Okay, where a camel lives? A camel lives in a desert. So a camel normally lives in a desert. Okay, so you will find there, if you go, you will find camel. You will find different kinds of animals that can adjust themselves to the desert, the temperature of the desert, okay, the environment of the desert. So they are actually they are habituated to that kind of place, isn't it? So that is its habitat. Okay, now let us take an example of polar bear. Now you will not find polar bear in the desert. It cannot adjust itself to the desert. Okay, so you will find a polar bear in a cold region where there is ice, where the temperature is very low. So you will find a polar bear there. Okay, so polar bear can adjust itself to that kind of environment where it will find snow, where the temperature is very low, isn't it? So these places are known as their habitat. Okay, there are numerous types of habitats on the earth. You will find many types. Numerous means various types of habitats on the earth you will find, isn't it? You will see some animals, they live on the plains. You will find different kinds of plants on the plains. On the hilly regions you will find different kinds of animals. In the desert you are going to find different kinds of animals. In the water you will find different kinds of animals. In the snow you will find different kinds of animals. So you are going to study here about various types of habitats. Okay, different animals prefer different types of conditions and places for their survival, where they can survive. So we were talking about polar bear, we talked about camel. A camel cannot go and adjust itself to the in the snow, isn't it? It will die there. As well as polar bear cannot adjust itself to in the desert. It will die there. So different animals, they prefer different types of conditions and places for their survival, where they can survive, where they can live. Thus they have developed different features which help them to survive in different situations. They have different features in their body which helps them to survive. The process of change in features such as structure, function or behavior of a living thing. You see here we are going to study about structure, we are studying function, the behavior of a living being in order to improve the chances of its survival in a specific environment is known as adaptation, in which place an animal can adapt itself. Okay, that is known as adaptation. All right. See, my dear students, these are different kinds of animals. Okay, so you can see here Now we are going to study about need for adaptation in animals. What is the need for adaptation in animals? Animals live in a variety of habitats. I explained you this. In a different places they live. Okay, wherever you will go on the earth, you will find different animals. You will find they have to adapt to a particular habitat to find food, shelter, and produce their young ones. So these animals, they have to find a particular habitat for themselves. Okay, so that where they are going to find food to survive, shelter to stay, and to produce their young ones, so that they can produce their children. Okay, they also need to protect themselves from the enemies. If the enemies attack them, they have to protect themselves. So they need a particular kind of habitat, and they have to adapt, they have to adjust themselves to that particular kind of habitat. Okay, the natural environment of the earth slowly changes with time. Okay, you will see the environment also in which we are living also, that is also changing, but it's a very slow process. Okay, animals also need to gradually change their features and behavior to survive. See, animals also need, like human beings, animals also, their features, they change their features and behavior to survive in a particular place. Those who can adapt to the changes manage to survive. If they suppose they go to a new place, they have to adjust to that new environment. If they cannot adjust, they will die. Okay, and if they can adjust, they will survive. Okay, whereas those who cannot adapt to changing environment die and slowly become extinct. What is the meaning of extinct? They are no more. Extinct means they have disappeared. They are no more. Therefore, adaptation is very important for life to continue. If you can adjust, if you can adapt, you will survive. If you cannot, you will die. Let's learn how animals adapt themselves in different ways. So now let us talk about different kinds of animals. Okay, how animals adapt themselves in different ways. How can they adapt themselves? Now, adaptation to different habitats, you see, based on their different habitats, animals can be grouped as, how can they be grouped as terrestrial, aquatic, amphibian, and aerial. They can be grouped into 4 groups. Terrestrial, so here today we are going to study about terrestrial only. Terrestrial, aquatic, amphibian, and aerial. These are the 4 groups. Adaptation in terrestrial animals. You see, terrestrial animals are the animals that live only on land. Now see here, the picture that you are seeing, these animals live only on the land. Alright, so you can see these animals, they live on the land. Okay, so different this one, terrestrial animals are the animals that live only on land. Okay, dogs, horses, camels, lions, and are some terrestrial animals. So you have to understand what are terrestrial animals. Okay, they live on the land. Adaptation in these animals also differ from region to region. You will see the polar bears, they are also terrestrial animals, whereas a camel, that is also a terrestrial animal, because all they live on the land, but they live in different regions. Okay, they have the following features that help them to live on the land. Now I explained you that animals, they also have particular features, isn't it, which enable them to live on the land. Okay, now terrestrial animals have well developed body and sense organs. They have well developed body. You can see all these animals, they have well developed body, and they have particular sense organs which enable them to sense changes in their surroundings. If there is any change, they are able to sense that. Most of them have 4 legs, you can see, which help them to walk, jump, move on land, hunt and protect themselves, so that they can move around, they can jump, they can hunt, and they can protect themselves, they can run, isn't it? On the other hand, some animals like snake, they do not have legs, because you know they have scales on their body and they crawl on the land. They possess scales on their body. Okay, and they crawl, but they are also terrestrial animals. Alright, some land animals live on trees. Okay, like you can see some land animals are there that live on the trees. They are the arboreal animals. What are they called that live on the trees? They are arboreal animals. Monkeys, trees, snakes, and squirrels are some examples of such animals. So you will find monkeys, they are terrestrial animals. but they live on the trees. Tree snakes are there, squirrels are there. They have sharp claws that help them to climb trees and hold support. How they climb the trees? They are so weird here. What features they have? They have sharp claws which help them to climb the trees and hold support so that they don't fall down. Very often their tails also become adapted to hold the branches of the trees while climbing. Okay, so their tails also help them. So you can say that is also one of the features. Okay, so that with their tail they can hold the branches of the trees while climbing. Okay, animals living in desert have thick skin. You see here, these animals, they live in the desert. They have thick skin or thick outer covering on their body. You can see a camel here. Okay, this protects them from the heat of the sun, thus preventing loss of water from their body. Their skin is very thick, that protects them, their body, from the heat of the sun. Okay, preventing loss of water from their body. Some desert animals, you can see here, camels, you can see that hump, that up thing on their back, that is the hump. Okay, like camels, they store fat in their hump, and you have already studied about what are fats. They give us energy, isn't it? They give us more energy than carbohydrates also, fats. What is the work of fat in the body, you know? Alright, so they stored fat in their hump to survive scarcity of food and water for a long time, because in desert there is a scarcity of food. They don't get water, they don't get food always, isn't it? So the camels, they stored fat in their hump, and after that they utilize that, they use that fat in their body. They have capacity to drink lots of water at one time and survive without water for many months. Just imagine, in the desert, why they have adjusted themselves to the desert. Why we find camels in the desert? Just think, because they can live without water for months. They also have broad, flat, leathery pads at the bottom of their hooves. At the bottom of their legs, you see, they have broad, flat, leathery pads are there. Okay, like leather, like pads are there, flat pads are there at the bottom of their hooves, thus preventing their feet from sinking into the sand, so that their feet will not sink into the sand, it will not go deep into the sand. Just imagine how they are made. What are the features that help them to survive in the desert? Some animals like snakes, snails and lizards sleep during the hot hours of daytime to protect themselves from heat. You will find lizards in our homes. We can find lizards, isn't it? Snails also you will find. Some animals, so what they do when it is very hot during the daytime to protect themselves, what they do, they protect themselves from the heat. They sleep during the hot hours of daytime. Okay, so this is known as summer sleep or estivation. What is summer sleep or estivation? It is the period when animals like snails or lizard, they sleep during the hot hours of daytime. And why do they sleep? To protect themselves from the heat. Okay, all right. Now you see, we are going to talk about some cold regions, animals living in polar regions. You see this animal, this is a polar bear that lives in the polar regions. Okay. Yaks also you will find in the polar regions. They have thick fur on their body to keep them warm. So what they have on their body, they have thick fur. Other polar animals like penguins and seals also you will find they have a thick layer of fat under their skin. So under their skin they have fat. Okay, under their skin called blubber. That fat that is under their skin of penguins and seals, that is known as blubber, to keep them warm in the cold regions, in the polar regions. Okay, they depend on these fats for energy in winter. Energy. So on what do they depend? They depend on fats for energy in winters. These animals. Okay. All right. You can see here polar bear is there. Some animals like bears, snakes and ground squirrels become inactive and sleep during the cold weather to protect themselves from cold. When it's very cold, some animals like bears, okay, the snakes and ground squirrels, what they do? They become inactive. At that time they sleep. They don't do any kind of work. They sleep during the cold weather to protect themselves. They go to sleep, long sleep, they go for long sleep, okay, to protect themselves from cold. This is known as winter sleep or hibernation. See, we studied about summer sleep or estivation. Some animals sleep during the hot hours of daytime to protect themselves from the heat, and here we are talking about winter sleep or hibernation. Okay, here the animals, they sleep, they become inactive and sleep during the cold weather to protect themselves from cold. Okay, now you see, we are going to talk about camouflaging. Okay, body color of some animals like zebra, polar bear and chameleon blend with their surroundings to save themselves from their enemies. Sometimes you will see, if you have noticed, lizards, they change their colors. Okay, lizards or chameleons, okay, in the garden you will see suddenly they change their colors to protect themselves, and they blend with the surroundings. Like you will see plants are of green colors, so sometimes you will see lizards, chameleons, they change into these colors, they blend with the surroundings. Okay, so what happens, the body color of some animals like zebra, polar bear and chameleon, they blend with their surroundings. Why do they do this? To save themselves from their enemies, so the enemies do not attack them. This is known as camouflaging. You can see here, that is known as protective coloration also. Okay, protective coloration, what is that? Coloration and protective resemblance allow an animal to blend into its environment. This is only camouflaging. Okay, another word for this might be camouflage. We are studying their camouflage makes it hard for enemies to single out individuals. You can see, like polar bears, you see it is already white, and they live in the snow in the polar regions, so the surroundings, they actually blend with the surroundings. You can see. Okay, some animals like porcupines have sharp spines to protect themselves from enemies. See, porcupines, if you have seen those animals, they have sharp spines on their body. Okay, other like snails hide inside the shells in case of any threat. Snails, you will see a snail moving on the ground. If it finds, if they sense any threat, because animals, they are very sensitive. Okay, so if they sense any threat, immediately they go inside their shells. Okay, so today we studied about terrestrial animals. These are the animals that live on land. We studied about land animals. Okay, so let us go through the vocabulary once. Okay, so animal adaptation, you see here, what is adaptation? You have to write down this in your copies. Okay, science copies. What is adaptation? A body part, body covering or behavior that helps an animal survive in its environment. Okay, behavior, the actions of an animal. Camouflage, a color or shape in an animal's body. Covering that helps it blend into its environment. What is environment? Everything that surrounds and affects a living thing. The environment includes non-living things such as water and air, as well as other living things. What is habitat? The place where an animal lives. The physical characteristics of an animal's surroundings. Inborn behavior, instinct, a behavior an animal is born with and does not have to learn. Mimicry and adaptation, in which an otherwise harmless animal looks like a harmful animal in order to protect itself. They can make different kinds of sound. Okay, that is mimicry. Predator, an animal that hunts and eats other animals for food. Prey, an animal that is taken and eaten by other animal. Predator for food, survival or survive, that is using adaptations to continue to live. Just go through this animal adaptations. You should know all these terms. Okay, animal adaptations vocabulary: adaptation, behavior, camouflage, environment, habitat, inborn behavior, mimicry, predator, prey, survive or survival. So children, please write down all these terms in your copies. Okay, so we have completed this topic. We have completed adaptations in terrestrial animals. We have completed today in our science class. Okay students, please go through whatever is being taught. Thank you.